One of the best things about doll collecting is not only the dolls, but the people that you meet along the way that become your doll besties. In today's video, I'd like to compare and contrast the vintage and modern Sissy dolls. Please stay tuned till the end of the video. I'd like to share with you which doll bestie lent me that vintage Madame Alexander doll and tell you a little bit about how she and her team are going forward to preserve the learning and the history of dolls, toys, and miniatures. In the Designs by Jude pattern collection, I have several patterns for the 20-inch modern Sissy doll. Over the years, I've been asked many times if my patterns will fit the vintage Sissy. I only design clothing patterns for dolls that I actually have in my possession. Up until now, I haven't had the opportunity to see a vintage Sissy doll up close to do that actual comparison, but that changes today. This gorgeous beauty from the 1950s is on loan to me from one of my doll besties. After sharing a few facts that I've learned about the Madame Alexander dolls, I'm happy to show you the comparison between the two body styles. A quick Google search reveals that the Madame Alexander Doll Company is an American manufacturer of collectible dolls that was founded in 1923 by Beatrice Alexander. The doll company introduced Sissy to the market in 1955. Madame Alexander dolls were considered the premier fashion doll and preceded the release of Barbie by 4 years. The dolls had hard plastic bodies with a composition hard vinyl head. They featured painted facial features and rooted eyelashes with subtle eye makeup. The hair was often rooted and typically in styles like ponytails, updos, and soft waves, usually made from high-quality synthetic fiber or mohair. Sissy dolls featured a more adult silhouette at that time. They had a slightly more curvaceous figure with a slim waist and fuller hips and a fashion foot. In addition to her more grown-up body style, she often wore elaborately designed dresses with luxurious fabrics such as taffeta and silk and lace, and the clothes were often extremely detailed and included accessories like hats, gloves, and jewelry. In just learning a little bit about Madame Alexander, you can instantly see why Sissy became a fan favorite. Prior to seeing a vintage Sissy in person, I believed that the dolls were 100% composition and was surprised to learn that they were made of hard plastic. The modern era for the Sissy's dolls began around the year 2000. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at how the dolls changed from the beginning to now. The modern version of the doll typically is made from vinyl, making the modern Sissy lighter and more flexible compared to the vintage models. The facial features moved to a more contemporary design with higher definition facial painting, often featuring brighter lips and lipstick, as well as more striking facial expressions. She still featured rooted eyelashes, but they tended to look a bit more natural. Modern Sissies tend to have rooted synthetic hair or often wear wigs in a variety of colors ranging from platinum blonde, vibrant reds, and even darker shades. The body style of the newer dolls did remain slender, but was updated for more flexibility, improved posability of the limbs, and some articulated joints. Sissy's clothing continues to be considered very high quality, but you'll definitely notice a turn towards a more modern aesthetic with some very casual to designer-inspired pieces. If you're looking to redress one of your Sissy dolls or perhaps make her a fabulous wardrobe, it's important to take note of the subtle differences of the old body style to the new one. In this next section, we'll walk through that body-to-body comparison, look at the different sizes of their head, as well as their feet, and even the limbs. In checking out information for this video, I actually came across a pretty interesting fact that I was not aware of. Since the introduction of Sissy in 1955, there's been not only one, not two, but 5 different body variations brought into the marketplace. The first Sissy body was released from 1955 to 1960. Past that, they created a new body called the post-1960 body, then the Sissy 2 body, the Sissy 3 body, and the Neo Sissy body line. In today's body comparison, we'll be looking at the vintage Sissy compared to a 2005 Sissy whose body measurements I'll list in the next slide. In comparing the modern and vintage dolls, you can see that there's variation of a 1/2 inch in the bust, a 1/2 inch in the waist. They have the same width in the hip, a 1/2 inch difference in the neck, and a 1/4 inch difference in the length of their arms. It's easy to see on both dolls that there's variation in the bust point, as well as the roundness of the torso and backside. The vintage doll tends to have a little bit thicker arms and legs, but fortunately, they can share the same shoes. The face shape and the makeup did change over the years, but another thing that changed on the dolls was the size of their head. In looking to wig or re-wig one of your Sissy dolls, you'll have to take note that the vintage doll does have a slightly larger head and therefore will require a different wig. After going through this body comparison, you can see that there's slight variation between the two dolls. To see if the Designs by Jude patterns would be appropriate for your Sissy doll, I would recommend taking your doll's measurements and comparing them to the measurements listed on our website. Keep in mind that the more fitted a design is, the more accurate those adjustments are going to have to be. As promised at the beginning of the video, I would like to give you a little insight into my doll bestie that shared this vintage Madame Alexander doll with me. This beautiful lady on my left is Beth Nance, the executive director of the North Carolina Museum for Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures. A few years ago, I received an email from one of their volunteers shown here, Kathy Gregg. She invited me to the museum, which is located in Spencer, North Carolina, just 1 hour from my house. That email sparked many new bestie doll relationships. My mom and I started traveling regularly to Spencer to attend the museum's doll events, luncheons, and Super Saturday sales. During one of those visits with my mom to the museum, Beth was kind enough to lend me that Madame Alexander vintage doll. She told me not to worry about keeping it too long. They wouldn't really need it until the museum was ready to move into their forever home. The months have really slipped away, and that Madame Alexander doll needs to take her position in the brand new forever home of the museum in Spencer, North Carolina. The housewarming for the Museum for Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures is going to be December 6th, 7th, and 8th. The museum and their staff work tirelessly to preserve the history and the memory of our beautiful toys and dolls. This amazing cause is a nonprofit organization, and if you'd like to donate to the museum, I'll leave a link to them in the description below. As you know from watching my channel, I absolutely love to design patterns and to sew, but the one thing I really enjoy about this doll collecting hobby is the community that we build together and the friendships that we make. I hope this information was helpful to you if you're sewing for the Sissy dolls, or if you actually just were interested in what the variation between the vintage and modern might be. I do hope I have the opportunity to meet you in person in December at the North Carolina Dolls, Toys, and Miniature Museum's new location and new forever home. Thank you guys so much for stopping by, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.